It's Neil from Heavyocity. I'm here to remind you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will not regret it. And it's easy. Just click that button. Subscribe. Then you get all the good news. Maybe even like a video. We would love you to do it. And you won't be sorry. Thank you. Hey everybody, it's Neil and I'm back for episode 5 of 2 Hour Cues. And I'm really psyched to be here again. Really enjoying that everybody's getting something out of these and writing comments and some kind of positive vibes about it. So it makes me really excited to do more of this. And so thank you in a big way. So this week we are going to get into another kind of action adventure vibe. It's in the Marvel kind of universe, so to speak, leaning more towards traditional like brass, strings, percussion. And, we'll go through it like we always do. And again, if you're just tuning in for 2 Hour Cues for the first time, basically I sketch out an idea, write an idea in 2 hours, and then I'll go in and kind of, paint a little bit more in each section and kind of fluff stuff up. Sometimes I get carried away, but the idea is to essentially write something quick and then present that idea to you guys, play through it, show you the parts, see how they work together. And that's pretty much it. So why don't we get right into it and I'll play the piece, or at least a section, and then we'll investigate what we have. Cool. So I'm going to play the first two sections actually. I think it'll be a better way to go, and then we'll talk about it. Here we go. I'm going to stop right there. There's a third section, and we'll cover that in a bit, but why don't we start off and just see what's going on. So I started the piece, I believe, with the short strings, Spiccato Strings. So we've got a violin part, a viola part, and a cello part all working together. And, with this, it can be pretty challenging to get fast-moving strings to sound authentic, right? We sampled in this product Novo of ours, the violin, short notes, playing soft to loud, and a bunch of different articulations so it doesn't sound like a machine gun. But even with that, playing a fast line, when it's sampled, it's not going to sound the same as a player would actually execute the part, like whatever it is. There's just a bowing technique, and the way I'm a guitarist, so I'm thinking in the way they're kind of, holding the notes and bouncing the bow and moving the bow, there's a fluidity to it, which is difficult to reproduce. So we have a violin spiccato part, so let's listen to that. So that's kind of doing its thing, ostinato. And, you can see the notes there's some volume differences here. So there's a difference, if you hit the notes harder, you're going to get a different timbre. But at this speed, it's tough to really have them speak that way. And I have them on their lower end. And along with that, we've got the spiccato violas. So those sound like this. And again, if you were sitting in front of these players and they were really playing that, it would sound less perfect. And then the other section playing is the cellos, and it's less busy, but there is a line. You'll hear it. So these guys should be fired because that was really poorly played. Just kidding. It's a little sloppy when you solo it, but in the scheme of all three parts playing together, it kind of works. So here are the three: violins, violas, and cellos. And then there's a change because a horn line comes in that states a big melody. We'll get to that in a sec. So what else is going on underneath this? One would like to know. So let's go to some of the glue, the classic Heavyocity sound design. We have this pad called Brain Exfiltration. I don't know who came up with that name, but this is what it sounds like. It's pretty cool. It definitely sounds a little sinister. Along with it is another pad from Gravity called Cello Sunshine MW, and MW means mod wheel. You can use the mod wheel and we'll change the sound. So that on its own, definitely different. It has a little more of a beam me up Scotty vibe from Star Trek. So together, cool. So let's play those with the strings chiseling away. Right, so you start to get a little bit of the picture there. What else is happening? We do have some brass, some low brass. I'm going to add it in and then we can look at it separately. It's just adding more weight and kind of meat to the sound. And then I chose to use tubas. Come on, tubas are awesome. Nobody wants to play tuba. Or do they? I don't know. It's probably not PC to say that. But it is a badass instrument. When we recorded tubas, when we did our recording of Forzo, our brass product, I was like, oh man, those things are badass. So we'll throw those in. The low end and the growl on that stuff is pretty damn cool. So just the brass, the tubas, and the contrabass trombones. I love that. So that's kind of happening on the low end. And then, you know me, I'm always using my sub hits. It's the Jurassic Park earthquake vibe. And then for percussion, what do we got going on? A little cymbal strike. And these low drum skin effects. Okay. And going old school to Evolve, our first product that we released 11 years ago. I'm using a gong at some point. Let's see where that comes in. All right, that comes in. It's at 14. So we'd have to wait a bit to hear that. Let's just go to 13. 3, 4. Cool. Okay. So that's most of what's happening in the intro on a solo level or like an individual basis. So let's listen to the whole thing together. So initially I was talking about the spiccatos, the violins, the violas, and the cellos, and the difficulty of trying to make them sound real. And obviously the violins on their own, not bad, but it's a very fast line. Adding in the violas an octave beneath hides a little bit of the inauthentic kind of sound to it. Maybe I'm being too critical about it, but, when you hear live players doing a thing versus MIDI, there is a difference. So this low end from the trombones, the contrabass trombones and the tuba, and also the stuff from Gravity, that kind of sound design glue, along with the percussion and the booms, the strings are kind of percolating underneath all that stuff, and they're poking through just enough. And part of that was, I think I've talked about this before, you make a decision, like say you have a library and you don't have to use Heavyocity products on any of this stuff that you're doing when you're writing at home. If you don't have them, totally cool. Use what you have, what you know, what you're comfortable with. This again is more about like writing and the approach and how to create a mood and a vibe. I'm using our products because that's what I have, and I get a kick out of just doing stuff with stuff that we've created. That's just my personal thing. So I'll stop blabbering and go on to playing this again. But what I wanted to say was I have them tucked in, the violins, the violas, and the cellos. I might have pushed them louder if they were like played, by live players and it was much more fluid and dynamic. But because of the limitations of MIDI, as much as this is an incredible string library and we're super proud and we love it, there are limitations to MIDI, the end. So I tucked them in and they seem to work better. Just kind of, you can hear that they're there, they're moving things along with this very, energy. So this second half of like the intro, I state the theme, the big superhero-y vibe. The French horn is, I think, where I started with the melody. Classic kind of bold, yes, I am a superhero. And then I was thinking, let me harmonize a bit with some trombones. That would be a cool flavor and get that kind of big round kind of, how would I say it? I don't know, it's a satisfying feeling getting chords to work around that melody. I'll just play it. So there's some kind of cool movement going on in the tenor trombone part where, you just heard the French horns initially. It sounds like, it's a pretty straight line. And then when the tenor bones come in, which is adding this harmony to it, it really shapes like the feel of it, the emotion of it. I'll play it again. Kind of a regal chord change there, and then this change at 16 where the melody's ba-do. Kind of conveys a longing or a mystery kind of feeling to me, at least. That was how I kind of took the melody and shaped it. Underneath that, for some more low end support, are the contrabass trombones. Just a trombone in the bass version. It has a lower register, it doesn't go as high, and it just fills out. So let's take a look at the tenor trombones first, so you can just see what I did. And also, I'm in Cubase. It doesn't matter what digital audio workstation you're using, but modulation and most virtual instruments will control the dynamic layers that have been recorded. So say we recorded 3 different volume levels of the horn players. We have them stacked in the sampler, and as you move the mod wheel, it goes from the softest one to the middle one to the loudest with some crossfading. So you kind of ride that to get more of a natural performance out of it. So the tails, you can kind of back it off, like they're blowing and then they're, kind of pulling back at the end of a phrase. I didn't go crazy because, again, I did this pretty quickly, but you can see, here it's kind of tailing down. Not so much there, but the general flavor feels fairly balanced, I think. And then if we check out the contrabass trombones, and that's a good example of that right there. You hear the bell of the horn, it kind of gets more aggressive and growly the louder they play. And that's essentially with this line right here, this modulation, I'm pushing it up louder to get that performance out of it. And then back. And then a little lighter there. And, a little goes a long way. I'm going to let this section play into the more dynamic string part where it's a little more kind of heartfelt and there's not any percussion. It's more of a little free. There's not much there's a tempo to it, but it's a little more kind of floaty and free feeling. We're not going to the third section yet. Okay, cool. So let's go kind of middle of the road with the violas. Okay, so I think I called them violos once before, like a cereal. Again, we're seeing mod wheel. And that's a combination to try to get them to sound more expressive and sweeping kind of. The modulation in this case is not crazy, and I'm actually sculpting a little bit more with volume. I think I liked the mid kind of level velocity or volume that they played at, and so I still played with that. You can see the movement, swelling up a little and down, up a little bit more and down, and the volume, I'm pushing that louder to kind of create that feeling. So the violins up here doing a similar thing. And that jumps up an octave there. So let me throw the cellos in. the cellos add that bottom warmth. I think, honestly, there are some moments in this where they seemed a little loud to me now that we're soloing it, but again, I did this really quickly, so I'm not going to obsess too much about it. And then beneath that, I actually added in the bass. Feels even a little warmer. That kind of lower octave is getting filled up with some good energy. And then I was thinking, okay, let's add a little bit of randomness to this. And we have a couple of other products called intimate textures and rhythmic textures. So intimate textures and rhythmic textures, really quickly, are not this large full orchestra of 53 string players like Novo. It's a small ensemble in a smaller room. I guess I should just solo this on its own. You can hear what it's doing. And so, yeah, there's more vibrato in it. It's a little more expressive. It sits on top lightly, but gives it a little extra pizzazz. I broke it up into 2 parts. So it's the identical string part. So I've loaded in 2 presets that are the same thing, right? So it's violins 1, textures 2 from Intimate Textures, and it's loaded in twice. And to get this nice tail, I have this first channel playing the melody, and then the second one picks up because they overlap. It was hard to get them to naturally speak with this fluid fade out and fade back in. So that's a lot of talking, Neil. Anyway, by doing it on 2 channels, second channel takes over as the first is fading out. So in context, Cubase, we can solo all the strings. So if we go to the beginning, and then the other stuff going on, the French horn is quietly kind of ghosting the melody. So with the rest of the strings, and I actually think the French horn could be a little louder in this section. Let's see real quick, right? This whole thing. Let's see how that works. Cool. What are the other things happening? There's not a ton. There is a voices part. So this is, again, ghosted, so to speak. It's a ghostly sung part, and it's kind of just right on the top. So with the strings. Harp. All right, so we're going to pick it up into this last section. So let's find a good bar to roll into it. Okay, the end. Actually, we're going to talk about it. So we come out of this vibey string part, serene and all that, and then we pick it up into like this kind of high action, fast-paced vibe. And so I don't know if it was completely obvious, but if we look at the tempo track, you know, we're at 131, and the string part here is 131 tempo. Big jump, 34 beats per minute to 165, and that definitely helps. It was done in a way where the strings are kind of fading out, and then when everybody kicks in again, it's not like some awkward time ramp or whatever. It just seems to work. So what's pushing this along? Again, we're back to the short note violin, viola, and cello parts. They're spiccato articulations. It's the name of the short notes here. So if we listen to these parts, I could have probably finessed some of that a little better. I think I threw it down, and then I started working on, hey, what's the main melody theme going to be? So we're going to pretend that that's cooler than it is on its own, and then go right to the horns. So let's see what's going on with the French horns, which typically is what I've used in this piece as the melody, the main melody driver, obviously with some strings. Now with the strings. So it's like a call and answer. Such a good singer, aren't I? I mean, I don't know why I don't get hired more to sing on albums. The call and answer thing going on here. We were only listening to the tenor trombone, so if you put in the contrabass trombones, you'll hear a little more meat and potatoes on the bottom there in the second half of the answer. And I'm going to throw the trumpets in to give you the full phrase together. Yeah, so after the melody kind of does its thing, it's vamping out on low, kind of angry bow, bow stuff. The tubas and the contrabass trombones have a really nice low end to them, so I use them where they speak best. Also, since this is a really kind of chugging along thing, there's a lot of percussion that's pushing this too. So let's kind of isolate that and take a look. So we've got cymbals. We've got this Master Sessions ensemble drum menu, the high gain drums. Let me just show you what that is. Again, you can use any percussion you want. I just chose what I thought worked pretty well. So it's this. Let me solo and... So those are, accent hits. The other component to the rhythm is the ethnic frame drum ensemble. Let me show you that one. That's down here. Kaboom. Also a Master Sessions product. And it's a little random. There are other components too. Let's throw those in. So there's a loop. Actually, I want to play that on its own. It's kind of picking a loop when you're at a tempo this high can sometimes be challenging. So I did find one that I thought worked. It's a little frenetic. And that's another Master Sessions loop made out of woods, different wood materials. And there's also some cymbals, which is from Damage. It's the cymbals menu. Sounds like somebody didn't quantize very well. So if we put in all of this percussion, and let's not forget beloved sub-hits. Oh yeah. Hey, we got a gong coming up. Again. Let's listen to that in the context of the whole piece. There's a transitional element. It's called Bass Brahms 2. It's a sound design thing, kind of a stinger. Ready, go. Yeah, otherworldly and kind of evil. Just how I like it. So let's listen to that in, and there's also some drums that go zhibba-dibba-doo, you know, and that swell of this brass Brahm part just kind of rocket you into the third and final section. And that is out. I didn't do some grandiose, bigger melody, bigger and bigger and bigger. To end this, I figured, oh, let's pretend we're scoring a scene and there's 3 different vibes to it. And then it kind of tails off and, you know, the scene is over, music fades down and you're out. So that's how I kind of approached this too. And it was a factor of time as well. Didn't want to spend too much time on this. So let's play from the top, and I'll kind of walk us through some of the different presets that we're using, and that'll wrap it up. Okay, here we go. So that's the piece. That's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this piece and got something out of this style and the choices that I made to put the piece together. Again, super appreciative of you guys tuning in and liking the videos and commenting. I love seeing that. It's just inspiring to do more of this. So again, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. We're going to continue doing these as long as you guys are digging them. So again, thanks so much for watching and tuning in. Have a good one.